first and foremost self-leadership question any leader could or should pose to himself or herself. Question, write it down, is my calling sure? Is my calling sure? Now, write one word down under calling, and we're going to talk about it just for a second. It's the word energy. Energy. When you know that the God of the universe has assigned an earthly mission to you, when you know, when the Holy Spirit has whispered your name and a role you're to play, and you feel his calling on your life, does your energy level tend to go up or down? Answer me, please. Up. Up. When you get up in the morning and you say, the creator of the universe has given me a job to do and a role to play on this single day, do you have a bounce in your step? Do you say, you know what? This is the most important thing a human being like me could give himself to on a day like today. I'm on a mission from God. Did you see the Blues Brothers movie? I'm on a mission from God. Okay? A lot of energy. By the same token, if you're not sure of your calling, if you get up in the morning and you say, you know what, I've got all these options and I got to put in a little work, I got to do this, I got to fulfill, a lot of expectations of other people. If you're not sure of your calling, does your energy go up or down? Answer me. It goes down, friends. This was never more vivid to me than during a period in my life in the early 90s. I'm going to talk about this a little later. But in the early 90s, I had kind of an emotional meltdown. And I went through a season where I was so, some of you pastors will relate to this. I had so overdone myself in ministry that when I looked, I didn't want to live my life anymore. I didn't want to walk into a future that looked like my past. And so I secretly started wishing that God would call me back into the marketplace, because I came out of the business world and I thought, man, I want to go back. It's business world is just less complicated. Okay? So I'm standing up in front of our staff one day, and we have a large staff. We're in a big room, standing up in front of everybody, and I said some things, and I opened it up for question and answer, and one of our long-term staff members raises his hand and says, hey, Bill, I think most of us want to know, are you going to be around here a year from now? Are you still called to be our pastor? And I said, I'm not sure. And I realized years later, it was an honest answer. A for honesty. But I'll never forget the looks of everyone in the room. They're just like, we are on this rocket ship and nobody's driving? We're all giving ourselves, we're all shedding blood and doing the best we can, and you don't know, our leader doesn't know if he's called? Friends, the greatest gift of energy you can give yourself and the greatest burst of energy you can assure your people about is that you know your calling, and you're clear on it, and you're going to live it out. You're going to pay the price. You're going to be there. Leaders call commitment out of followers. So followers have to know you are committed to your calling. You're clear on it. You're committed to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's powerful when oh boy, this just came to my mind. The country I was in, I've been on a long trip here, like a 33-day trip that I'm near the end of. But one of the countries we were just in was South Africa. And I don't know if the coverage extended here to Australia, but in the famous trial when Nelson Mandela stood before a group of legal officials and was accused of making trouble, and that was the trial that wound up, putting him in prison for 27 years. Do you know this trial I'm talking about? Okay. They finally dug up the actual recording of his words. It had been recorded on this antiquated recording device that they didn't think they could ever retrieve the actual sound of his voice, and through some technological hocus pocus, these English of all people learned how to make his voice come back to life. So I'm in my hotel room in Cape Town, and I turn on CNN, and it's playing a recording of his voice. This goes back 30 years. And he talks about racial equality, and he says, I'm not going to get the exact quote, but I am going to memorize it when I get the text in front of me. He said, this racial equality thing is an ideal for which I have given my life, and it's an ideal for which I am prepared to die. It's an ideal for which I am prepared to die. And no kidding, I got choked up. This is a bad recording of 30 years ago. And I'm in a hotel room, all choked up emotionally. Here's a guy who said, here's my calling. I am prepared to die to free this nation from apartheid. I'm prepared to die. It's unbelievable. You get a pastor that stands up in front of a congregation, says, you know what, I'm sure of my calling. I am sure of it. I'll give my life. I'll give every last drop of what's left of my life to carry out the calling to lead this church. I'm committed. And you got followers who are saying, then I will be too. So friends, if you're fuzzy on your calling, make it the top priority in your life to get clear on it. Take a time out. Take a week off. Take a month off. Hibernate. Go, walk around aimlessly. Do whatever you need to do to get clear on your calling. Because you need the energy and the confidence that comes from a sure calling. You need the energy and confidence, and all of your people need to see it in you. They respond to it. You with me on this? Now, here's an interesting thing about this. Nobody can do this calling work but you. I'll just say it more tersely. It's not my job to help you get your calling clear. It's not your spouse's job. It's not your elder's job. Self-leadership demands that you do this rugged kind of work. Nobody can do it but you. And by the way, it's not just pastors and missionaries that get callings. Everyone who bears the name of Christ, every Christ follower gets a calling, gets an assignment. It's just your job to sort out what it is and make it a priority in your life. Because you get energy and confidence, and you can call commitment out of followers when your calling is sure. Okay? Here's my second one. And some of you probably heard me talk a lot about second self-leadership question. And this is the age-old vision question. But I want to ask it this way in self-leadership dynamics. Is my vision, is the vision for my life, is the vision for what I'm leading, is my vision clear? Is my vision clear? Now, can you grant me about 5 minutes of grace here? Because, again, I don't know how to talk about this subject matter without being frightfully candid. And I don't think someone just made a $50 contribution. Did I hear it? Norm, you're getting your... all right. Great. Well, that's a spirit of generosity just swept over the room. I don't know how to... I've been talking to pastors and church leaders now for almost 15 years. So after a while, you just see some things. And you can choose to talk about it or choose to perpetuate the myth or the deception or whatever it is. And it's just been the last few months, I've just decided, you know what? I'm going to say it to pastors. And they're probably not going to carry pictures of me in their wallet anymore. But that's, it's not what floats my boat anyway. Here's the question. Why don't pastors put on the calendar once or twice a year? Why don't pastors put on the calendar? Why don't worship leaders? Why don't youth pastors? Why don't people in church leadership positions put on their church calendar once or twice a year a thing called Vision Night or Vision Sunday? Answer me that question. Why don't leaders in churches put Vision Night on the calendar throughout the course of the year? Why? Because if they put it on the calendar and the day came and they had to stand up, they'd have to be clear about the vision. They'd have to speak in clear tones, in clear words and pictures and so about what their own vision, what the vision of the church is. And you know what? They don't know. They don't know. And I'll tell you how this got clear to me. This started about 10 years ago. I established Vision Night at Willow Creek. I would do it once in January, once in September. And so I've been doing this for a long time. And a leader recently said, hey, Bill, when did the elders establish Vision Night at Willow? And it caught me off guard. I said, they never did. They said, well, when did the board say that you had to clarify the vision twice a year? I said, the board never did. And he said, well, who insisted on it? And I realized, I guess I did. And then you know how I finished that thought? Because you know who needs Vision Night more than anybody else at Willow Creek Community Church? Me! I do. I need the discipline of a date on a calendar that says every 6 months, I'm going to clarify the vision of our church. Why? Because they get fuzzy on it? Well, coincidentally, yes, they do. Because I get fuzzy on the vision. And if I'm fuzzy on the vision, you can bet the whole church is going to be fuzzy on the vision. Can we talk just a couple moments about what is vision? It's become like a hot word in church circles. It's a hot word. But I won't embarrass you here, but if I just started saying, you stand up, you stand up, you stand up, tell me what a vision is. A lot of people go, oh, wow. Well, it's one of those hot words that floats around in church circles a lot these days. Vision, friends, is a picture of the future. It's a picture of the future that produces passion in you and the church. Now, I'm presupposing this picture comes from God, you see. This is not a man-made picture. This is a God-made picture of the future that produces passion in you. So I'm walking through a church building in South Africa. I think it was in Johannesburg. Coolest thing. I'm walking down the hall. They just built a new building, and these have been folks that we've helped train over the years. And I'm walking toward a stairwell, and there's panes of glass in the stairwell. And etched in the glass is this beautiful triangle. And it says on one side, to know. It says on this other side, to grow. It says on the bottom, to minister. Like that. So I run and I get the pastor. And I said, I'll bet that's the vision of the church, isn't it? He said, yes. It took us years to sort that out. I said, what does this side mean? I think I know what it means. He said, we want everyone in our community to come to know Jesus Christ and his saving power. This is the evangelism value in our church. We put it right in the vision there. I said, well, I bet I know what this is. Yeah, to grow people up to full devotion to Jesus Christ. Casual Christianity not allowed. I said, well, what's this then? He says, it's to get Christians off their butts. It's to get them to minister, find out their spiritual gifts, and get them out to minister in a needy world. What do you think of this? Is it clear? Is it biblical? Is it memorable? Friends, a good vision for your life, for your church, has to be biblical, has to be clear, has to be memorable. Peter Drucker says if you can't put your vision on the front side of a t-shirt, it's not a good vision. Because people won't remember it. If they don't remember it, they won't live it out. I had a pastor one time, he heard me talk about this, and about 6 months later I saw him somewhere, and he gave me his church's carefully worked out vision statement, and it was about as long as all of this writing. I mean, it was single-spaced, and it filled a piece of paper about this size. So he's real proud of it. He gave it to me and asked me to read it. So I did, and at a next break, he came down and he said, so what'd you think? I said, very impressive to me. Could you give it to me? I mean, just tell it to me off the top of your head. He stammers and he says, could I have my paper back? I said, you're the pastor, and you can't give me this wonderful, well-worded masterpiece. You wrote it, and you can't even summarize it for me. For a vision to have traction in a church, for a vision to have the kind of power that a vision ought to have, it's got to be biblical, it's got to be clear, it's got to be memorable. At Willow Creek, ours has been very simple. Same one for 25 years. We're trying to turn irreligious people into fully devoted followers of Christ. Stop anybody at Willow. What are we trying to do? Trying to turn irreligious people into fully devoted followers. That's what we're trying to do. Now, some of you right now are not too impressed. I mean, I read a room pretty good. You're going like, so what is the big deal about cleaning up this vision deal? I want to tell you, a clean vision is a really big deal. When you put, like these guys in South Africa did, when you make it official that, like in this guy's case, like 1/3 of his vision statement was so that everyone in his community, all lost people in his community, would come to know Jesus. And in our vision statement, when we say, hey, 50% of it, or, just like 1/2, is about irreligious people. Why are most churches not evangelistic? Why are most churches not baptizing 100 people a year, 300 people a year? Why? Friends, it's not even in their vision. Their real vision is to keep existing sheep in the pen. That's what it is. I don't know how you'd draw that. You'd be like, picket fence, picket fence, picket fence, picket fence, sheep, Keep existing sheep in the pen. That's the true vision of many, many churches. So how do you break a church out of that? You have to work through a new vision. Now, let me just, again, I don't want to belabor this point because many of you are working hard on this. Who determines the vision of a church? I mean, some people have the Mosaic paradigm. They say, our senior pastor ascends to Sinai. And God visits with him there. He comes down with a glowing halo and the vision on tablets. Okay? Well, in that case, what usually happens when Moses announces the contents of the tablet to the congregation? They break them over his head, right? They're saying, hey, how come it's only you that establishes the vision of this church? What's the deal? I don't think that's the best way to establish the vision of a church. I think a pastor brings his own heartbeat, his own, strong sense of calling and vision, but then if he's going to do it right, he's going to gather his elders, his deacons, his staff around, and they're going to search the scriptures. I think what you do is you turn to Acts 2 and Acts 4 and all the other salient passages in the book of Acts, and you say, what does God want our church to look like? What does God want our church to look like? And then you get people's heads in the pages of Scripture, and you know what they'll do, because I've done this with many, many churches over the years. They'll start saying, we'll say, what did the Acts 2 church look like? Well, it proclaimed the gospel. It worshiped freely. Folks learned their spiritual gifts, and they start identifying all these marks of a biblically functioning community. And then you collate all of the marks of a biblically functioning community. And then you say, okay, we're going to meet again a month from now, and we're going to try to distill all of these marks of a biblically functioning community into a statement or a rally cry or some picture that people can, that's biblical, memorable, and clear, that we can put in front of our people and have them rally around. Okay? Now, again, like right now, some of you are saying, great idea, it just sounds like an enormous amount of work, which is precisely why most pastors don't do it. Because to gain consensus from every board member, every elder, every staff member, and to do the wordsmithing, to do the hard creativity of coming up with what goes inside this circle, it's murder. Just murder. And so some pastors, in the privacy of their spirits, make the trade-off. They say, I will avoid all of that hassle and all that work, and I will settle for a fuzzy vision. Don't let that person be you. You've got to operate with a clear vision. And then when you get it all clear, you know what's going to happen? When you present it to the church and you're going to say, here's our vision, friends. This is not just my vision. This is the vision of the collective leadership bodies of this church. You know what's going to happen? Because it focuses the energy of the church. That's what vision does. Focuses the energy of a church. Some people are going to say, well, I'm not going to be a part of that. And then you say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Okay? So, you know, really, then you ought to go be. We have people, Christians, who hear about our church, and they come and they visit. And then when they learn how relentlessly we seek lost people, we have a lot of Christians who, again, they read about Willow, they hear about it, they come and they go, I'm going to be a part of Willow Creek. And then we say, okay, we want to sign you up for a Contagious Christianity course, and we want to teach you how to build relationships with lost people. And then we want you to invite lost people to our seeker services that we have 52 weekends a year. We have a lot of people go, hey, you know what? I want to go to a church where really what they want to do is keep existing sheep in the pen, because I'm a sheep. I'd like a lot more attention on me and a lot less attention on those pagan people out there. And you know what we say? Bye-bye. That's fine. Go to a church that's about that. But as many other people hear about our church and they come and they say, okay, well, I don't know about this evangelism thing, but I'll give it a shot. And they take Contagious Christianity courses. They learn how to build relationships with non-church people, and they lead their first non-church friend to Christ. I don't want to ask for a hand raise. I wonder how many of you have ever said the sinner's prayer with a pagan friend or a family member. I wonder how many of you have ever ushered a lost guy into the kingdom. Only takes one time. And then we have people who say, I will give everything I can give. I will pray my best prayers. I'll give my best volunteerism. I will lay down my life for a church that cares for non-church people. I will never again be a part of a church that doesn't have something about irreligious people in their vision statement. Jesus came to seek and to save those who are lost. You got to be clear on vision, friends. You got to be clear on vision. Can I tell you one last thing about vision? It took me 10 years to learn, and I'm going to give it to you in 10 seconds. So, oh, you better write this down. Oh, man, 10 years out of my hide, and you get it free In 10 seconds here. Sort of free. It's extra credit anyway. These two words. Vision leaks. Those are profound words. If you have a bucket, you fill it with water. If it's got no holes in it, you can carry it around for months. It'll evaporate a little bit, not much. Every human being's bucket has holes in it. So you fill your church up with vision. 30 days later, they're saying, what irreligious people? What vision? What do we do? You know, they've watched television, gone to 6 movies, mowed the lawn, washed the car, had this little detail called vocation, you know, their job and all this. And they're pulled all these different ways. They show up, they don't know. They're clueless about the vision of the church. So what I used to do, many years back, I would pour vision out over the church, and I'd say, that ought to last them a couple years. And I've just learned, vision leaks a little bit every day. So not only do I need 2 formal vision talks per year in front of the whole church, I got to keep refilling the vision bucket, just not quite weekly, but pretty darn often. I really do. I got to keep doing that. Phil Pringle had a leaders meeting here in the church last night and made some announcements before I gave a little talk. And I was just watching a leader in front of his leadership corps. And one of the first things he said is, we just had a new members class, largest new members class we've ever had in the history of our church. And he said, way to go, leaders, way to go. You're really doing good. That's the lifeblood of this church, isn't it? That we attract people to Jesus Christ and connect them to the body of Christ. What was Phil doing? He's just clarifying, just pouring a little more vision in the bucket. Just saying, our vision is outreach. Right? Just doing it reflexively. I don't think you got up yesterday morning and said, I'm going to fill a vision bucket. Leaders know how to do that.